Okay, so last time, Steve, we ended with, gosh, you gave us such, such interesting stories and such great insights. And one of the big themes I thought from last time was the musician, not just as a musician, but as an entrepreneur. Let's talk a little bit more about that, starting this part two.
Well, I think there's clearly a failing on the part of every music school I've ever been in contact with, or they've had me in as a guest lecturer, something, because they may teach the students how to play, how to write charts, and all that. But I've yet to find one that knows how to make a living or from what they get at the universities. Now, before my tenure here in New Orleans with the 6 foot tall redhead, I was living with this beautiful young woman who was a graduate of a extraordinarily prestigious conservatory. She was a real hot dog violin and viola player. I'm talking about, she played with some world class acts, and she was a very talented teacher and all that. And she was, every symphony in the South was using her for a sub, you know, because she amazingly gifted girl, and still a good friend of mine. And she and her husband come down to visit from time to time, and which pleases us greatly. But anyway, you know, I first met her when she was pretty fresh out of the conservatory, and really, boy, she could play her butt off, but she didn't have a clue how to work. And you know, so can I tell one funny story about her?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
This is one of my favorite. This is true too, I swear. Okay, so she and I are living together, and she notices that I am working constantly, and I'm not, I'm doing a lot of recording sessions, or I've got my little band, and then I've got another band. I'm working with all these people. And something that she really enjoyed was Celtic music. Okay. And so, yeah, I had a booking agency too. And so, anyway, you know, Stevie, St. Patrick's Day is coming up. And she had a little Celtic band she'd gotten together because she really liked the music. You think you could get me a kind of a really good St. Patty's Day gig? Well, I guess I could, being as how it's you. I think I could probably round you up a good one. And so, a couple of days later, I had a plan. Well, I'm not going to call her name because I don't want to, although the close members of my posse all know her. I mean, she's even played with Rod Stewart and people like that. But anyway, I got you a good gig, and I got you the kind of money you ought to be getting for this gig, Well, yeah, it's down here at this joint. And this was a nice club where I used to play a lot. And she knew that I obviously would know the club manager and all that. And there's one little thing. The club manager had a couple of special requests. And of course, he's like, oh, sure, I don't care. What do we got to learn? You remember that Walt Disney movie, Darby O'Gill and the Little People? I don't know if you're old enough, but you remember that, right?
No, I don't.
but no, look it up on YouTube, okay?
Okay.
There is a movie, Darby O'Gill and the Little People, that was popular in, I guess, maybe the 60s. I forget. But anyway, Susan, the club manager, is just nuts about that movie. And so I promised her that you would learn the tunes from Darby O'Gill and the Little People. Well, so, and really, now, this young lady had a very good work ethic. So she goes and rounds up a DVD of that. And she then, I think, wrote charts for her band. That would be the way she would approach it, because she was highly educated, highly skilled musician. And she had the band learn all the soundtrack to Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Oh.
Okay. Then she goes and plays the gig on St. Patrick's Day. And they play their usual repertoire. And she had met the club manager through me before. And she just told Susan that she was ready to play those requests whenever she wanted. Of course, Susan didn't know a damn thing about any of this.
Oh, no.
So believe me, when she got home that night, she gave me a lot of credit for pulling one over on her, in a big way, because they learned like the whole soundtrack to the whole movie. It's not like they learned 2 or 3 tunes.
Oh, I hope she played them anyway.
I don't know that I ever asked her that. I bet she did, but because in Birmingham, Alabama, how many people that are in the club? It's pretty big joint. Actually know all of the traditional repertoire for a Celtic band, right? But you got to admit that was a good one.
That is classic. I have to remember that.
Yeah. All right, now we were talking about musicians not knowing how to run their business as a business. First, I want to give my late father credit where credit's due, because when the time was approaching where I was going to enter university, he sat me down and said that don't go get a degree in music, because you can always take lessons from somebody and learn to play. Because I'd had very snappy teachers for years. He said, go to business school, learn how to read contracts, analyze your royalty statements and all that. Some of the best advice I ever got. Well, okay, so I see a lot of young people that get out of this wonderful program they have here at Loyola University. They have superior musical skills, and they might as well be selling pencils out of a cup on Canal Street or something. They don't know how to earn a living. Now, our students, everybody here that studies with me gets an ongoing dose of how you do that and how you keep working all the time, and all the things that are necessary. Because really, you need to learn how to read a royalty statement, and you need to understand what contracts are about. And in addition, people who employ live music have a lot of expectations that I find so few musicians understand. That they're not in touch with what the realistic expectation of the people that write the checks are. See, I'm not talking about what your buddy who's sitting at the bar drinking beer expects. I'm talking about the person that writes the check. That's the person that matters. We spend a lot of time with our students working on that. And we've done, a couple of my guys have done quite well. I think, I know you and I have discussed some of the videos of them. Yeah, we learn how to play, but there are a lot of folks who know how to play. But, I have a couple of students who are now buying swanky condominiums, and one of them's even buying collector automobiles and stuff,
Wow.
And they'll tell you, where'd you learn to do all that? Right there in Steve's studio. So, yeah, we do that. But it is so important. Now, another thing that I think musicians fail to do, people that are just getting in the business, is they don't understand that this is a tough business. And in order to survive in this tough business, then it's up to you to show a lot of initiative. You got to make your own breaks. You do. You need to figure out something that the buying public can pay to see you do that they can't get on a coaxial cable coming into their living room. The experience you offer them must be unique. And so few people that I talk to that are getting a degree in applied saxophone or whatever have the vaguest of concepts of what's involved in that. You know, and I used to laugh a lot where these I typically know a lot of the young people that are going to Loyola, and yeah, they would say, "Oh, Steve, I saw you on TV playing with Vince Vance, or you were playing with Johnny Angel, or so." Steve, you're not playing the Parker Omni book or all that. Well, let me point something out to you. You don't know what Vince Vance is paying me. You don't know what Johnny Angel was paying me, and how I managed to keep those gigs for years and years and years and years. Why? Because I'll provide something that they can't get on a coax cable into their living room. And unless you're willing to do that, you need to understand that you're in the entertainment business, not the music business. That the people don't come to that club to get a music lesson. They come to be entertained, forget their trouble. So, it's up to you to do that. And don't act like there's any shame in doing that. Yeah, I used to walk the bar. Yeah. People say, oh, it's the walk of shame. Oh, you don't know how much they paid me to do that, do you?
Well, let me ask you something. With regard to, people finding their own unique selling proposition, so to speak. That's business talk, right? But how, a lot of people will say today, they'll give the advice that, you got to hustle. You got to hustle to get the gigs.
Yeah.
But those first few gigs that you may get, you may have to, you may not get paid very well at all. You may get paid peanuts, or you may have to pay to play, or play for free. I know we've talked about this, but I want people to know, your advice about this.
I would admonish you, Donna, about that because I don't, well, you can ask anybody that knows me and say, well, Stevie doesn't pay to play. Stevie don't take a reduced rate and all of that. Yeah, I charge more than most other people. Okay. Now, but I have my own standards. If I'm gonna come play with your band, here, this is what you're gonna get. Most places I've lived, people knew me and they knew what they were gonna get. And we have always done pretty well at marketing that. When I first moved to town here and didn't really know anybody, I was very blessed that some people at the very top of the food chain around here understood that, I knew what I was doing. I was a very competent musician, but also I understood that my job when I go into that club to play, my job is to sell whiskey. I don't have any other job. That's the only reason they're having me there. That they're not. And, people say, well, how do I learn how to do that? Well, you're welcome to come take some lessons with me about that. But here's some things. If you will merely look around at what bands at a very high level do, and then look at what the local bar band that you're competing with doesn't do, and there's your answer. And by the way, I highly recommend to anybody considering music performance as a career, that great saxophonist, Mindy Abad.
Yeah.
Now, Mindy, I love Mindy. I love the way she plays. Mindy is such a great player, and Mindy gets it, okay? And she has a wonderful book that is required reading for all of my students. And I would highly recommend anybody considering learning how to work in this business and make a living, read Mindy's book from cover to cover.
Yeah, it's called
It's full of invaluable advice.
And by the way,
If
folks, it's called How to Play Madison Square
Madison
Garden.
Square Garden or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can get it on Amazon. I've got it on my Kindle, and but really, it's required reading around here. Okay, so that's so important, and the music schools are letting all these people down, because they don't know how to go out and take the initiative, you know. And I tell my students till they're sick of hearing this from me, that you guys better be glad that I've retired from playing live gigs due to health, because if I wasn't retired, you'd be competing with me, you know. And because the people who are hiring saxophone players are going to say, well, let me see, I'm going to hire you that wants to play Green Dolphin Street, or I'm going to hire Steve and he wants to play Mustang Sally. Oh, the people in the crowd want to hear Mustang Sally, and that, oh yeah, because it's you have to be able to pay your mortgage and make car notes, or or whatever your needs are. But you got to do that. There's no shame in doing what you got to do that. I mean, I've played every kind of gig you can imagine. I've even played polka gigs, and this boy from Alabama doesn't know a whole lot about polka, okay? But I went down there and read the chart, did a good job, and took their money. And I've always looked for new avenues of ways to generate more work for myself, because I can't count on anybody else to do that. I've had good agents and good personal managers and all that, but when it comes down to it, as far as rounding up some paying work, it's on me. It's on me. And you shouldn't, turn up your nose at any employment opportunity. And you say, oh, well, Steve, you're not playing real music and all that. Oh, really? Oh, let me see. You mean you want me to do like you, and every third Sunday afternoon I can play the jazz brunch at the Holiday Inn for $20? Is that as opposed to what I do? Oh, no, I don't think so. You have to be able to do all those things, and that's important.
Well, let me
I,
ask
I
you.
can give,
Let me ask you something, Steve, for a second. Because what
yeah,
about two things actually? One of the main reasons why people go to music schools, obviously, is to build up their talent, their skill, but it's
yeah.
also to make those connections, and those
I,
connections are what leads to gigs.
all right, now, here at this wonderful music program that I talk about at Loyola University, now, of the saxophone teachers who I know there, very unusually, all of those guys are like the first call players in town. Okay, that's unusual, because everywhere else I go, the faculty doesn't know a whole lot about making a living playing. Those who can do, those who can't teach. I believe that, and I'm not referring to my good friend Tony DeGrati or my good friend Jason Mengeldorf or Wes Anderson or Ray Moore. All those great saxophone teachers they have over there. Yeah, all those guys are out in the trenches with the rest of us. But just about everywhere else I've ever been, those guys wouldn't know how to hustle up a good gig if it bit them on the fanny, and that's the truth. And you have to be creative. And let me address just a couple of creative things
Okay.
that are out there. Something that usually comes around when we're sitting at the bar and somebody says, what was the weirdest gig you ever rounded up yourself and all that? Okay. So when I lived in Birmingham, I had a repair shop. And that's where I'd be during the day. And also as part of that little thing, we had a teaching student. I'd give lessons, I'd do repairs. And then everybody knew you could find me there and call me for gigs. So I'm sitting up there one afternoon and minding my own business. And the phone ring-a-ling-a-lings, and is this Steve, the saxophone player? Yeah, this is Steve, the saxophone player. What can I do for you? Steve, today is Persian New Year's. Okay, great. I don't know, but okay, it's Persian New Year's. So, how does this involve me? Contractor fails to hire horn section with band. Okay. So I take it you need to hire a horn section. As you know, I have one, Steve Goodson and the Low Budget Horns, right? Where's the gig? And where the gig was is there's an enormous, super high-end five-star hotel there. It's the Winfrey. It's in the grand ballroom of the Winfrey. That's a big place, and they don't rent it cheap. So I'm thinking, yeah. So who's the feature act, that you need the horn section for? I never heard of the guy, but I don't know anything about Persian music. I said, all right, what time sound check? I said, I'll call my boys. Now, let me tell you what my fee is for this. And that'll be in $100 bills in advance, because I don't know these guys, right? I'm going to count the money before we come out of the green room and all that. Okay, Steve. So I called these guys who were in the low budget horns in Birmingham, and John and Wolf. And John was just a guy who's been a professional musician all his life. Fabulous trumpet man. First class. Great guy. And Wolf was, and we all know a black guy who always wears those shades that are black, and is just so hip. That's Wolf, the trombone guy. Great player. Great guy. So anyway, all right, I call him up, say, okay, here's the deal. It's what I'll pay you. We got to do just one show with this guy. We got to sound check it like 7 or whatever it was. And then we go on, we're the headline act, and we go on at like 11 o'clock. Okay, and we're backing up the Mick Jagger of Iran. Yeah, okay. So we go down to the joint, and here's the guy who called me about the gig, who I told to meet me in the bar. And oh, Steve, I said, well, look, before we go out there and do this in front of a whole bunch of people, I'd kind of like to flip through the book, right?
Okay.
Steve, book is not here. Well, where's the damn book? Because I'm going to be honest with you here, Mustafa, I don't know any Persian music, okay? So I'm going to kind of be relying on this book. See, book is coming with the band. Band is not here yet. Really? Thought we were going to sound check this bitch. Okay. So here, you and your boys go help yourself to the buffet. And they had a wonderful buffet of Persian foods, which was great. I happen to like that a lot. I've got several friends who are Persian and all that. I'm real big on their ethnic cuisine. So we go in there. And, it's getting to be about 9 o'clock. They had some kind of stand-ins do the sound check because the band wasn't. And I'm kind of like, wait a minute, we going on about 11 and they ain't here and the book ain't here. Right? The band will be here. Okay, let me know when I get here. So before too long, he comes and taps me on the shoulder. Band is pulling up. So I go outside, and here's a big Prevost rock and roll bus. And there's some guys getting out, the drill guys getting out of the bus and all that. And the first guy gets off the bus, I'm standing there and say, I'm Steve, I'm the leader of the horn section. Tonight, I need to see the book. And the first guy looks at me, no English. Okay, the next guy comes down, and I'm Steve, I need to see the book before we do this. No English. I'm beginning to get worried. And the next guy, no English. Here comes another guy. He comes down there. Hi, I'm Steve Goodson. I'm the leader of the horn section here. And I really need to see Steve. Yeah, hell, man. We heard all about you. My name's Ishmael. I live in Atlanta. You ever played any Persian music, Steve? Oh. Well, hell, man, ain't nothing to it. It's just some of that modal stuff, So, don't worry. Hell, I'll get you the book. He calls some roadie, and a roadie comes out with a stack of books, and we thumbing through there. I don't know the titles of any of these songs, right? And then we get over here, But like in most professional show books, every tune has a tab, right, with a number. And so I'm talking to these guys, and Ishmael's giving us some cue. Say, look, just hold up 5 fingers, we'll play chart number 5. Hold up 7, we'll play chart number 7. And these guys, their instrumentation is just like a garden variety rock and roll band, except they got about 18 percussionists and 4 belly dancers, but everything else, guitar, key, all that. And the book is beautifully written. There's a lot of places where it says open drum solos and all that, but okay, I can deal with that. So anyway, sure enough, the 11 o'clock hour approaches, and here comes, we're behind the curtain. They're going to open the curtain, and there we're going to be. And so there we are. And then Mr. Mick Jagger of Iran comes running out, twirling his microphone like Roger Daltrey in his moment of ecstasy. And somebody holds up 5, and we kick into chart number 5. Now, we are totally sight reading this stuff, okay?
Yeah.
And so, and this is like a different musical form that we know nothing about. I'm just assuming that this chart is correct. I have to make that assumption. As you know, if you've ever done show charts for touring bands, charts are rarely, it's usually kind of in shorthand or something, But anyway, so we're there rocking out and doing all this stuff and doing all this stuff and doing all this stuff. And then, I get number 14. Okay. And we play number 14. And then, I get, well, okay. So we try to decipher what that is, and we start playing chart number 16.
Oh, okay.
And we're rocking along. And then Mick Jagger looks over at me and he goes, well, we're playing chart 16. The rest of the band's playing chart number 6. And hell, we can't tell the difference. And, this is a rock and roll show with all kind of pyro and all that kind of stuff. And okay, and the show's over. We got paid a ton of money to do this. And then they try to get us to go on the road with them, because they had like 5 more dates coming up, and they're going to Miami and some places in between. No thanks. But the point being that, you see, I had a horn section available to play the book of any touring act came through town that needed horns. And all the promoters knew that. Who do we call? I'll call Steve. He knows, what's your book written for? 2 bone, 2 trumpets, 3 saxophones. Okay, he knows all those guys, And, we'd come dressed right. I made a ton of money doing that, just a ton of money doing that. So think outside the box. Think outside the box. Right. Now, another thing that is so important is to look around at, search your environment for places that have live music and see how you fit into that scene. Here in New Orleans, every funeral has a live band. Right. Yeah. And I think we talked about that before, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I mentioned to you, I had played a funeral or 2 out here, and
sure.
I had to adapt because not only did I have to do the ceremony, but I also had to play at the gravesite as well, and I had to make sure that my equipment was adaptable for that too.
Right. And here, see, if you were down here working one of those gigs, this is so important in New Orleans. I can't tell you, have to have the right hat.
Interesting.
You would not dare show up with anything except what is called a band hat. I should have brought mine up here so you could see. And you'll say, oh yeah, I've seen it on TV. Those guys, they all wear the same hat. Now that you mention it. Yeah, and the dress code is totally set in stone, white short sleeve shirts, black skinny tie, except for the leader. Leader wears a black bow tie.
Wow.
So you got to think outside the box, okay? I used to do a good business playing as a solo saxophonist. So, let's say that you're opening Donna's House of Music and you got a sheet music store, something like that. You can hire me and I'll come and play for 2 hours while you have your grand opening, and I'll just walk around and play. I used to have a deal here with the Aquarium of the Americas, and they'd have some private party down there, and I'd go down there and play for a lot of money. Oh
Did you have backing tracks, or did you just play?
no!
Interesting.
And once you've done enough of this, you kind of learn how to pull it off. And I think the biggest problem I had doing that was just deciding what I was going to play next. What's the next 10? Yeah, because I know a million tunes, but and sometimes it would be tonight's Beatles night, and I would play all the Beatles ballads, such as that.
Sure, yeah.
Or maybe it would be a Gershwin night, or who knows, because I hate to say it, but they're not really listening. You're just ambient noise in the background.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's very true.
But and that's okay. And then we had another deal going. We had the dreaded Steve Goodson trio, and I had a trio, me, and I had a guy I'd played in an original material funk band with, but Todd was a jazzer at heart, and he knew all the standards beautifully. Wonderful guitar player. And then I had one of my rock and roll buddies playing the upright bass. Boy, he was great. So yeah, we just go to your little reception or such as that from 5 to 7, and we'd play standards, and there in the background we'd wear tuxedos and all that stuff that's expected. And we worked all kind of corporate parties and little events like that. So how did we get those gigs? You see, here we have a ton of conventions here in New Orleans. So I took the initiative, took some money out of my wallet, and I went to a meeting of all the event planners. And they're the ones booking, if your convention's coming to town, you got a company that's going to handle every aspect of that convention. And one of them's going to be a little cocktail reception, all that. And that's where the dreaded Steve Goodson trio comes in.
Okay.
We're over in the corner minding our own business, wearing tuxedos and all that, and playing standards.
Right, and that would be like your, that type of gig is more, how do I want to put this? Most people would play those types of gigs, meaning that, you're not out there in the audience. You're just, like you said, it's I hate to say background noise, but it's background music, and, you're reading off the charts or whatever you're doing.
No charts.
Okay, no charts, but it's.
You work for me, I'll assume you know any reasonable song. I just, that,
right. Unless
if you hold yourself out as a professional musician, you need to be able to play any reasonable request. You really do.
Okay, unless you're in a horn section where you've got charts over there. But I'm talking about for this particular gig, though, it's a typical gig. You're playing standards in the corner. You're not obviously walking tables or anything like that. So this is not.
Well,
pure.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Donna. I hate to admit this, but it's true. My wife knows it's true. I'm over there in the corner, but I might walk away from the corner, and if there's a pretty girl, I might go sit in her lap and play anything she wants to hear.
Okay. All right. So.
But that was always part of the shtick,
Okay.
And that's part of it. They had seen me do that in other places.
Okay.
But that is part of the shtick,
Got it.
Now, another thing about running a business. Now, I think most of you know me from my presence on the internet. Maybe a lot of you are aware of my mailing list and all that. It's up to you as the musician to keep the public informed as to what you do, what your capabilities are, and all that. Because if you don't do it, isn't anybody else going to do it for you? Okay? And particularly, now that we have social media and all that, it's made it so much easier. Sharon and I used to have to, once a month, we did a monthly newsletter, and we were having to put, well, we had a postage meter, but we had to literally put a stamp on every one, right?
Yeah.
And run them up, copy them, and fold them and stuff envelopes. Well, I don't have to do that now. I, do one and then hit send, and off it goes. Oh man, do I love that! But if you don't have any work and you are technically proficient, in other words, you can play. If you don't have any work, you got nobody to blame but yourself. And if you're not getting work with the skill set that you have, then I would respectfully submit you need to spend some more time in your room with the door closed practicing. Because I know when I moved here with Sharon, now my wife had worked as a sound engineer successfully. Okay. She understands about the business, but she didn't really understand what it was like to live with a full-time professional musician. Okay. So, at first I didn't have anything to do during the day. So what did I do? I practiced all day. All day. Because I ain't got nothing to do, but I need to work every day. And that's just part of my job, right, is to practice and be on top of my game. And I didn't learn, I wasn't born knowing how to play. We call him old gray-haired mama. You should say, when he was a child, he made us all crazy because he'd come home from school and he would play for 3 or 4 hours. Family would eat together. Then he'd go back in his room and he'd play. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had talked in part one, we talked about that, you were, you studied the universal method.
DeVille. Yeah. Paul DeVille.
Now, when you first moved to New Orleans, right? Obviously practicing is your job. What were some of the types of things that you were practicing at that point?
I sincerely believe, because one of my early teachers sincerely believed this, that you can't spend too much time playing scales and long tones. Okay. Now, wait a minute. What constitutes practicing scales? Let's take a G scale. Okay. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Okay. But wait a minute. My saxophone goes all the way down to low B.
Right.
That's one note in the G scale, and it goes up to high F sharp with normal key work. And of course, if you got a sax gourmet, it goes up to high G. But the point being, all that scale is the basic scale: do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, di, da. It's just my vocabulary. I need to play that scale full range of the horn, frontwards and backwards. I need to play intervals.
Right.
I need to, just every possible variation. I need to, now, since I'm claimed to be a rock and roll player by profession, then for the key of G, then I'm going to spend a lot of time playing different cadences using the 1, the 4, and the 5.
Okay. And
get fully conversant with that. Now, full disclosure, I do this in all major keys too. So,
right.
Got to do that. And then, and this is something my students have always had a hard time believing that I do, but to each and promise, I do this. If I'm inclined to practice some, what's the first thing on the music stand? 48 famous etudes by Fairley. And believe me, when you can play all that stuff at the correct tempo with the correct articulations, then you can play the saxophone. And because everybody says, Steve, you don't play that. Yes, I do. Let me demonstrate. Yeah. And there's no substitute for that, in my opinion. Now, when I moved here, the music community in New Orleans, there's so many snobs because, only New Orleans music is valid. Only New Orleans, there's all this stuff that they only play here, nowhere else in the world. And when I moved here, I didn't know any of that stuff. So I actually hired one of the guys in Fats Domino's band to teach me, just taking private lessons with him, teach me the local repertoire so I could work, So, the band leader says, okay, we're going to play Hey Pocky Way. Well, it's assumed that you know those horn parts. So you don't know that. You've played all over the place, but you don't know that. Right. That's where I was, Are you kidding me? They don't play that anywhere I've ever lived. And the list goes on and on. So you have to do that. And that was money well spent getting Clarence Ford to teach me all that stuff. He showed me an awful lot about playing saxophone too, because he was a great player. You can learn something from everybody, but I continued to take lessons from him up until his death. He was a very old man when I started studying with him. So yeah, you have to take the initiative. When I first started playing on Bourbon Street, during my breaks, I would go up and down Bourbon Street with a stack of business cards, introducing myself to every musician I could. Ain't nobody gonna do that for me.
Right.
You have to do that. And if I don't, send you something on my mailing list, you don't know what's on sale or what. Right. Then know what? It's on me. It's up to me to do that.
Right.
And there are people who have accused me of doing too much of that, and I know because you get some of everything we send.
Right.
But the fact is, Sharon and I were talking about the fact there's people that she buys stuff from that she gets an email from them every day about something. And listen, if you don't want to hear from me, just block me or call me and say, take me off the list. I'm glad to do that.
It's business practice. A lot of folks don't know this if you don't study business, but just sign up to somebody else's email list, and not only will you get one email a day, sometimes you'll get 2 or 3. And when they're selling a particular, course or product that they feel is going to help you solve a particular, problem or issue you're having, you're going to probably get 2 or 3 emails, if not 4 or 5, the last day that thing may be on sale. So it's just common business practice.
Because many days I get multiple emails from you about your courses and all that. No, and that's part of business. Tell them early and tell them often.
Because we forget. That's the whole thing.
That's
we forget.
Right. Oh, sure. Because we're all just overwhelmed with information about all this stuff. I get it. I know you do.
Yeah.
But that's the only way I can stay on top of the stack. Because I do need to buy one of those mouthpieces with a funny name: Duke of New York, Dragon's Tongue, Super Duck. What the hell? But and those colors. Why would you do that? That's so when you on TV, you're looking at that guy's playing a saxophone, a Duke. That's a Duke of New York he's got up there.
Right. Or people will ask, what is that blue mouthpiece?
Right. Sure.
Marketing.
Sure,
yeah.
We've been running that. Why are my horns the color that they are? Because you see Tom Scott on national TV and damn, his horn's the same color as a new penny. That's right. Because I actually called the U.S. Mint and asked them, how do you make the pennies? You get a brand new roll of pennies uncirculated. That's not the natural color of copper. How did you get them to be that color? And they told me. And so that's the color our horns were.
See,
marketing.
And that's again, and this was the theme, one of the themes from our part 1 of the podcast, but also going into this podcast too. It's you taking the initiative and you being unique, you finding a way of being unique and standing out.
Well, and that's something else, which leads us to really something else in my career is how did we get into the saxophone design and manufacturing business?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, from the time I first began to learn repair, and the way I learned repair was my high school band director, who was what a wonderful teacher. He was a wonderful musician. He held classes in theory and arranging, just like at our high school. You could take algebra or history and all that, or you could take music theory or arranging and all that. But he had been to repair school. After he got his master's, he went to repair school just because he was interested in it. Okay. So here I am, and I'm just kind of interested in watching him solder one day.
Mm.
And, well, here, I'll show you how to do that. And so before too long, because he knew I was interested, he was showing me what he knew, and he and I maintained on school's instruments.
Oh, wow.
You know, just, and boy, I learned a lot. Okay, well, boy, once I learned how to solder and make keys and stuff like that, I'm like, well, here, I got this saxophone. I could do this. First thing I did is on the low B, B flat, and low C, you got one arm, holding the key cup. But see, the key cup can move back and forth like that, right?
Yeah.
But if you're attaching it two places, it can't.
Okay. So again,
So
unique.
first thing you know, man, I'm making additional arms on my horns. And then there's a long list of that kind of stuff because I'm that kind of boy. So people would, see me at a gig and they'd look at my horns. Wow, could you do that to my horns? Yeah, if Benjamin Franklin could start shaking hands with General Grant, yeah, I think I could do that to your horn. And so before too long, I built up quite the little clientele of people that wanted me to substantially modify their instruments. Okay. Well, we did that. And then I was introduced by some people I knew through the industry to this guy from Taiwan who was kind of the godfather of the Taiwanese horn makers. You got to understand, this 25 years ago. This is before everything was made over there. This was just what, and this guy was extremely conservative. Mr. Lai was his name. And Mr. Lai was very conservative, real good guy. And so, he said, could you maybe teach us what you know about some of these ideas and all that? Yeah. So the first thing you know, I'm vice president for design for his company. And I'm on the payroll. And, I got to tell one quick story about Mr. Lai. Mr. Lai is a great guy, old-fashioned, very conservative guy, okay? And we always had to communicate through an interpreter because this is before I learned any Mandarin. I do speak a little Mandarin now, but Mr. Lai didn't speak any English, I was told. So we always had somebody there who could interpret for us. Yeah, it's necessary. So one night I'm in LA and we're at the Hilton there at the LAX, and we're up in Mr. Lai's room, and he's showing me some horns because we were going to be discussing the upcoming Steve Goodson model saxophone. And we're there in his suite, and there's a bottle on the table, and Mr. Lai was a drinking man. And so, it's now 3 or 4 in the morning. We're looking at all these horns he's made. You can do this, you can do this. And Mr. Lai will have another shot or two. And then finally, 3 or 4 in the morning, he looks over at me. The interpreter's there. And he says, Steve, I drink whiskey every day. I said, you son of a bitch, you speak English. Yes. I said, you mean for the last year, I've been having to wait for the interpreter to, tell you what I said, for me to hear what you had to say. Why are we doing it like that? I mean, I don't mind the interpreter, but it just, why? I said, give me time to think about what you say.
Ah.
This is great. He was a great guy. And he hooked me up with all these guys in Taiwan. And this was before the mainland Chinese business took off. Okay. And the guys over there would say, Mr. Lai is so conservative and so picky that if you work for Mr. Lai, you can work for anybody. Right. And Sandy Runyon, who I was taking lessons from at the time, Sandy was teaching me about mouthpieces. And Sandy was Charlie Parker's teacher. Now, that's where Charlie learned to play, was from Mr. Runyon. And Sandy knew a lot of those guys, you know, and he would introduce me to different industry figures. And, you know, when Sandy Runyon introduced your boy, now there was it's like getting a blessing from God right there, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Mr. Runyon was such a great guy and so knowledgeable and been in the industry longer than anybody. So before long, I got hooked up with a lot of those guys over there. And then the Unison company that I was working for, is Mr. Lai's brand. Name of the company is actually Narita. But Narita in Taiwan, you deal with Mr. Lai. Great. You know, I got along great. But unfortunately, there was somebody else, a U.S. distributor. And that U.S. distributor wasn't getting along very well with Mr. Lai or with me.
Okay.
So I quickly realized that the writing was going to be on the wall before too long. And so I had a good friend from the industry who was the president of a company that, let's see now, they own the LA Sax brand, the Vespro brand. They were the U.S. importer for B&S, those great German saxophones, U.S. distributor for Gordala. I mean, I forget. You know, they were in the saxophone business. So at the NAMM show one year, I technically didn't have a job, but I went, and I'm going around to all these different places, you know, that make saxophone. Said, you need to hire me. Because, you know, you saw that Steve Goodson model I built for Mr. Lai's company, had all that crazy stuff on it. I can show you how to do all that. And I went to that guy that was president, that guy, Jim, and Jim said, why, hell yeah, we'll put you on with us. Yeah, man, we'll have fun. And so before I left that day, I was vice president for design and manufacturing, because he knew something else besides my designs. Then he knew that I knew all those guys in Taiwan. He wanted my address book, and it was okay. And so I had my attorney draw up a contract, employment contract. All this is going to happen, all this is going to happen. You know, this is how I got paid and all that. After 3 or 4 years, I was getting a base salary, which was very generous by the terms it was. And then I was getting a piece of the action. And then it's just all kind of things, all that my attorney had good sense to include in the contract. So, and by then, some other people had bought into the company, and they realized what I was doing and all that, but they thought I was getting paid too much, because I think I was taking a little more out of there than other people were. But that was the terms of my contract. Everybody was an adult. Everybody had signed on the dotted line, right? And so they make a trip over to New Orleans and say, look, we're going to have to change the way you get paid, you know, because we just can't continue like this. I said, well, we got a little problem there. Here's the problem. I want you to carefully reread my contract and look for that clause that says when my contract expires, or how it can be altered. Oh, wait a minute. Damn, we forgot to put in an expiration date. And we forgot to put in any provision for this ever changing. So I guess that means it's just like this, now and forevermore. And I'm certainly happy with it. Oh, y'all don't like that? Well, that's just too bad. Y'all read what you sign, you know. You know, if you're so unhappy about that, I'm sorry. Well, we can't do that. Hide in the bushes and watch, because you'll also notice there on the second page, it says that I own all the trademarks and all that. Oh, I do personally, not you, me. Oh, yeah. Okay. So they had sort of made me angry by doing that. And I see the writing on the wall. So I get on the phone as soon as I get them out of here. And I start calling my buddies in Asia. So how about coming over to the United States for a day or two? Let's meet in Nashville, and we'll have fun. And I want to talk to you about business proposition. And they knew me well enough to know when I say I got some business I want to discuss, that they're going to make money and I'm going to make money. So, yeah. So they come over, we meet in Nashville. And, look, here's the deal. I'm leaving Orpheus, and, I own all these designs. And you guys, if you think about it, your only point of contact with Orpheus was me. And we always got along great. So, okay, Sharon and I are going to start up our own company. These other guys are out. Okay, Steve, we go with you. Really? So we were up and running immediately.
Which year was this?
That was about 2006.
And that's when Sax Gourmet started?
We were actually using the Sax Gourmet brand at Orpheus, but I owned it.
Okay.
And the first Sax Gourmet horn was the one we sold, made altos and tenors, as the Sax Gourmet Model 6. And that was the first one that had that new penny look and all that stuff. Yeah. And then we also were making a Sax Gourmet Saxello that had a solid silver bell and 2 solid silver necks. And the bell on, do you have a straight soprano?
Yes.
Okay. On almost all straight sopranos, the diameter of the bell is 3 inches. That one had a 4-inch diameter, but it was expensive because that bell and those 2 necks were solid silver.
Wow.
And it had a lot of other, so boy, we sold those quick, and all that. Everybody realized these were good and all that. And then, of course, I own the rights to all that stuff. And so it was good for me and Sharon, because when I worked for Orpheus, I had to travel all the time. Whenever 10 or more saxophonists gathered, they put me on a plane and I'd go speak to them and shake hands and buy everybody drinks and all that. That was my job. But now it's my company and Sharon's, and I almost never go outside Orleans Parish now to do this. I'm on the internet all the time, but I hadn't been to the NAMM show in several years. Not why? Why should I go? And no advantage to me. At the time we set up, I had 21 dealers in the United States. I had a distributor in Europe, and I had a distributor in Asia. And literally, I woke up one morning and I says to Sharon, "You realize some of these guys owe us $100,000? And because see, the musical instrument industry works on internal credit. You try going down to your bank and saying, "I want to open a music store. Would you loan me a couple $100,000? They'll laugh you out of there. Music store? You're kidding me. So you have to get whoever's selling you horns or drums or whatever you're buying. They finance you. The manufacturers do. That's the way it works." So anyway, we talked about that for a little while, and then by noon that day, I fired all my dealers.
Wow.
And the guys who are our distributors in Europe, and all those dealers in the United States, just about all of them still very close friends of ours. My distributor in Europe, still one of our best friends, those 2 guys. And we're in touch with them all the time. We love those guys. And the guy in Asia builds horns for me. So, and matter of fact, if you want to see that, you can go to my YouTube site, just Sax Gourmet, and look for our friends at Tinan who build our horns for us. And there's a video of me and Mr. Chang, who owns the company that manufactures our horns, and Mr. Chen, who is the general manager. He's the guy who actually makes things happen. And then there is this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful girl from there, Sheena Lynn. And Sheena, she's so wonderful to do business with. She's on top of everything. And she'll call me and say, "Steve, you got to send pads. Steve, you got to do that." We started that. And then we continued to make the Model 6 horns, made a few changes in them because it was time to order some more. And something we do is, I don't think in the history of our company from one production run to the next, they've always been exactly the same. I'll change something, and I keep up with serial numbers and all that, of course, but, I'll change something. So I can tell you, oh, that's off the second production run or whatever, or the third. And then we came up, oh, here's Sugar. Now, Sugar, go make Harvey. I'm sorry, you can't see the dog at my feet.
I can't.
No, I guess I can't, but she comes over to visit. She's a very affectionate little dog. But anyway, so then we decided it was about time for another model, and that's when the Super 400 came about.
Okay.
So we started doing that, and sure, every saxophone ought to have a high G key, and all this other stuff, And then we decided we wanted to change the alloy because we hired somebody who had a PhD in metallurgy to teach us about the resonance of metals. Because everybody else in the industry, all their information is just anecdotal. Now, they're pretty much right, but there's all kinds of science to know. So we learned a lot about that. And we have some proprietary manufacturing techniques that I'm not going to tell you about.
Sure.
I don't want Jerome Selmer to call me and say, Steve, could you explain that one more time, how you do that? No, I love you, Jerome, but I'm not going to. So but we do have some things with it. And we also have some, now these people we deal with in Asia, I love those people. They are very much family to us. I'd do anything in the world for Mr. Chang or Mr. Chen or Sheena or any of those. We work with them very closely. But business is business. And when they send the horns to me, suddenly a big truck pulls up in front of here and it's got a container load of saxophones in it. There might be some stuff that gets added to those horns, all that. The guys over there don't know about. I don't think they ought to know everything I do.
Okay.
And anybody that doesn't do it that way is a fool. And it's not that I don't love Mr. Chang or Mr. Chen or, Sheena Lynn and all that. No, I love them all, really. I do anything with, but no, business is business. And we do stuff that people don't know we do. Or, the end user gets it. And we are a small enough company to where we have the flexibility to do that. See, if I was whipping out as many horns as Selmer does, or as Marriott does, or Yamaha does, I couldn't do all that. Or I'd have to hire a bunch of people. At one time, I had 6 people that worked for me here on this end. And as Sharon and I have gotten older, and we both have some health issues, we're intentionally downsizing our company. Now, I ain't about to retire, but that being said, we no longer have 6 employees. So our choice. Business is good, but we just want it to be where Sharon and I can do it all on our terms. When we need some help, we have a couple of people we bring in on a contract basis.
Got it. So how many horns do you produce every year?
I ain't going to tell you.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I produce as many as I think I can sell.
Okay.
And not run out at the end of the year.
Got it. Okay.
I'm not going to tell you what Sharon's salary is either.
Oh, no, of course not. or your dogs, Harvey and Sugar.
Harvey, come here, jump up. Come here. Let Donna see what a handsome. Come here, Harvey. Come here.
Oh, there we go. Those of you that are listening to the podcast, you're going to have to watch the video to see. That's what the dog barking has been. Yeah. Very cute. Very cute.
Is that a good-looking dog?
It's very cute.
What? That's a good-looking dog, aren't you, buddy? I love this dog. But no, we are a corporation. All the stock is privately held. Only family members own stock. We don't have any outside investors, nor do we want any, nor do we need any. We don't owe anybody any money. We don't borrow money from the bank, any of that.
Wow.
And the nice thing about being in that position is if I don't want to reopen next week, I don't have to. Right. I don't owe anybody any money. Now we got plenty of inventory in our warehouse, but you know, I don't have to do, it's all paid for. And that's the thing you got to do. So we have, over the years, we've dealt with a number of different manufacturers in Asia because, like it or not, the entire industry has moved to Asia with only a couple of exceptions. Okay.
Who are the when you first told me this, I was in shock. Okay, but who are the exceptions?
Selmer, Borgani, uh, R&C, Ramponi and Kazone. Uh, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure where Amati is building their horns now.
Okay.
I just don't know. I know where they used to build their horns, but a lot of those small European companies have gotten rolled into a couple. There's a private equity firm in Europe. They bought Selmer recently. They own Buffet, Calworth, and I forget who all.
Okay. Probably BNS, I would think too, right?
No, BNS got out of the saxophone business.
Oh, I know
Who?
they make trumpets. I know that.
Yeah, to the very best of my knowledge, Gerhard Meinl is the guy who owns BNS. And as far as I know, they're still making, brass.
Right.
As far as I know, Gerhard still owns that company. I think if he didn't, I would have heard. But I mean, not necessarily, but just I, I know BNS, when I got out of the saxophone business, Gerhard tried to sell all the tooling and parts to me. Okay, I didn't want it. I got tooling in Asia. Oh, get out of here. But anyway, so before too long, let's see. I'm not gonna name names, but you course repeaters and second year students can figure out who I'm talking about here, and this is the truth. There was somebody a couple of years ago who said, we're going to bring back the American-made saxophone, and it's going to be a tribute to the King Super 20 and all that. Okay, you heard that story. And so, yeah, we're going to make, oh, really? Are you? I kind of know what it costs to get in the saxophone business and all that, how much it costs to manufacture horns, and I'm like, how stupid do you think these people are? But okay. Well, so sure enough, they failed just immediately, right? Because they had some guy, they weren't even putting the horns together themselves. They had some small town repairman padding the horns and crap like that. No, it's true. It's true.
Wow, wow.
And I mean, really. And then once they went down, my phone ring-a-ling-a-lings, and it's somebody who was involved in that deal, who is a legitimate fixture in the business. Steve, how would you like to buy all the tooling? And what the hell do I want the tooling for? Well, you're very familiar with it. It's the old B&S Medusa tooling. Yeah, I know all about that. And we've got all our key work was what they were using on the Medusa. Why should I buy that? Doesn't any of that fit with my horns? I don't want to make B&S horns under another name.
Right,
And that's what they were doing. That's what they were doing.
Okay.
They ought to be ashamed, but they're not. So anyway.
Interesting. Well, so now going, we're going to have to wrap up pretty soon, but what do you, can you give us any like previews of any like new models that may be coming out
Yeah.
or new things that are going to be happening with you?
Yeah. Right now downstairs in our showroom, there is an all black horn, black keys, black anodized nickel. Why? Because you can't take good pictures of it. And it has a total of 3 octave keys. Okay. Now we make a horn that has 4, but this one has 3. And it's got some other little gizmos and G-jaws and all that. And if we do decide to go ahead and produce it, and we're kind of ready to rock and roll on that, is that's going to be the Saxophone category 3. Yeah. But they won't be black. They'll be the same color as all our other horns. Then we have a Barry that, because I consider myself a Barry player by profession. And everybody who's played it, and I'm talking about guys who have won Grammys and stuff, everybody who's played it says far and away the best baritone I ever played, because it's got a whole new set of acoustics. The math's different that we figured out, and it's solid copper. Solid copper.
Wow.
I
Wow.
mean, it's got all kind of two different necks for two different sounds, all kind of stuff. Just and the never stick G sharp mechanism that we use, all that stuff. Yeah. And then there is a prototype, or the next prototype's being made now. We'll usually make a prototype, and it'll be ugly. I don't even clean up the old solder on it, because we just use that to kind of figure out what we're doing. Then we'll make a pretty one. And so I'm waiting on the pretty one on a solid copper soprano, curved, with all kind of other little stuff that nobody else has got on there.
Yeah.
And then we keep saying that we want to make a series. We sell more aftermarket necks than anybody in the business. Nobody sells as many as I do. But I keep saying I want to sell some sterling silver necks, until the guy that makes my neck and I get on the phone with each other. He says, "Sure, Steve, you have to buy 100. 100 solid silver necks." Yeah, but see, I make, right now, I make all these different models for it. Yamaha neck, a different Selma neck, different Coward neck. You mean I got to buy 100 each? Oh, yes, Steve. Oh, no, that's a big number.
Yeah.
I got the money, but I ain't real sure I want to give it all to you. But, let's see. We just revised the key clamps. If the key clamps you get from us are red, that's the latest versions, and we revised them so they're better. What else are we up to? I have some guys trying to talk me into making another sopranino. We made some sopraninos in the past, but the market's not big enough for old Stevie to pay for the tooling again. That gets to be a big number. And we're going to convert our entire mouthpiece line. And we're making right now, we make over 20 different tenor mouthpieces. We're going to convert. We're making mouthpieces made out of brass and stainless steel, grenadilla wood, acrylic, some kind of exotic resin. I'm not even sure what's in that stuff, but and Delrin. But we talked to DuPont, found out what species of Delrin had the best acoustical qualities, because we're buying the Delrin from DuPont at $48 a foot. But well, that's what it costs. It costs what it costs.
Yeah.
And so we plan to convert almost all the mouthpieces that we make now, and we make a lot of different mouthpieces, to Delrin, because we think Delrin is the best material. Delrin is not a plastic; it's a polymer, and you can put it in a lathe or a milling machine. It's not heat sensitive, so it won't distort. So yeah, and we have our mouthpieces made at EMR Machine in Phoenix, Arizona, and they're primarily they're an aerospace quality machine shop. They've got foundry, they pour melted metal and all that, but they can do anything. And they got guys running around down there. It's got a bunch of letters after their name, and when our mouthpieces come out of those big CNC machines, which are they can cut five angles simultaneously, and they play great right out of the machine. And then we do a little tweaking ourselves, but it ain't cheap to do it that way, but it's the best way to do it. So yeah, so I got plenty of projects going on, and some people have been asking me, said, "Steve, we got to see some new Sax Gourmet t-shirts." All right, I'll have to look and see how many we got left of the old ones. And another thing for Mardi Gras this year, every year now, Donna, we have Sax Gourmet Mardi Gras beads.
Oh, okay.
I've got a video about them beads now. You go look at it. So, we're telling all of you women, we got a way to get them beads. So, and the only way that you can get the beads unless you buy a homemade saxophone, and we throw a set of beads into every horn.
Oh, cool.
And we all the time having somebody come over here or something, and I say, "Oh, I want some of those beads for my little granddaughter," and Sharon will laugh and say, "You gonna let your granddaughter hang out with him, my husband, and get some beads? Are you kidding me?" But so there you go. So that's kind of perspective on a lot of this stuff. Huh?
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're coming out, you've been developing new things throughout the past few years.
We're always doing that.
Yeah.
When you come over here, you can see all kind of stuff that we started and then didn't proceed with because we found something we like better. We make all kind, because you can't go buy a book about how to design saxophones. You have to learn all about acoustics and all that, and then learn to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Which means you got to make some mistakes and try some stuff because somebody hadn't failed at something, somebody hadn't tried enough stuff.
Okay, that's a really, really powerful statement, and it doesn't have to do with just saxophone design.
Oh,
it also has to do with life. It has to do with improvisation. It has to do with being creative, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a great way to end this podcast. But I have to actually let people know, where can people find you online?
Okay, we have two main websites. We have saxgourmet.com, which is strictly an information site, and it is the most visited saxophone website on the internet. And we don't sell anything there. You can't buy anything at saxgourmet.com, but we have patent drawings and historic ads and all kind of stuff. I mean, just video. We got all kind of stuff. Okay, and we give all that away. I pay for the bandwidth. I pay for the the web guys' fees. Then we have a retail site, nationofmusic.com. That's where we sell stuff. And we have a lot of other stuff. We've got all my video seminars are there, and history of the companies there, and all kind of other stuff that you may find interesting. And then we're all over Facebook, because we now find that my son, Brian, is Dr. Brian Goodson. He's a college professor. He's a professor at Clemson University. And Brian, some years ago, I think when he was teaching at Ole Miss, he said, Dad, all my students correspond with each other on Facebook and all that. Why aren't you on Facebook? I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
And so, 5, 6 years, however long it was, he said, really, because you need to start there. Well, we now figure, and we actually do track this stuff, that about 30% of our business or more comes straight off Facebook. And we love it. And we have, I think, 17 different saxophone discussion groups on Facebook with different, we've got a group on acoustics, and we got a group on necks, we got a group on reeds, and it just goes on and on and on. So I'm not hard to find,
Awesome. Great. Listen, Steve, thank you so much for, your generosity with your time and, explaining not only all the, just the stories that you told us, and some people might think, oh, it's just another story, but it's not, because there's a message behind the story. And like the overall theme, you created your own career. You were the one that reached out and you made your own opportunities. And just what you said before, you have to go out there, and if you fail, it's not a failure. You learn something from it, and also making the connections with people too. And I think people are going to learn so much from both of these episodes. And I just want to thank you so much for your time.
Well, you really honored me by asking me to do this. I'm glad to do it. I'm glad to help anybody that I can. And for anybody that's watching or listening to this, if you want to call me and pick my brain, ask me questions and all that, call me. Call me during business hours, please. And understand that if I'm busy, I'm with a client or a student, I'm not going to answer the phone, and I don't check voicemail because I'm not going to be a slave to it. But call me, and really, if I'm free, I'm glad to talk to you and answer your questions. feel free to do so. The phone number's on the Nation of Music site. And,
Fantastic.
you know, we're glad to do that because we think that you need to give back. And this saxophone business has been very good to me. It's enabled me to make a real good living and, you know, live well for a long time. And so I feel like I need to give back to the community, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to do so.